We're back with the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We have Opunabo Inko Tariah on a Friday morning joined in the conversation. It promises to be an amazing time. Opunabo, it's good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Kofi, and good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Opunabo Inko Tariah. Nice to have you on the program this morning.
All right, let's take a quick look at the Daily Trust newspaper now. Naira redesign, 3 governors under a radar over stashed cash. EFCC chair is saying, very interesting, says Chief Executive, mulling table payment to London money, commission to intensify BDCS raid and monitor banks, cautions people selling properties to hoarders. These are some of the words you find this morning. INEC chair to REC, don't go to government houses. Federal government to fund Kaduna Kanu, other rail projects with Chinese, Portuguese and Turkish loan. Nigerian non-oil export increases by 62% to $2.59 billion in 1 year. And just before we move away from the Daily Trust newspaper, another caption says, Buhari commissions Nigeria-Cameroon joint border post. And the bridge, that's another caption this morning. We're not against salary increase for all workers, but what? RMA's FC boss is saying. And apprehension in Kaduna APC as court rules on governorship primary today. These are the headlines you find this morning on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Well, let's go over to The Guardian this morning with some interesting stories there. After Emirates, more airlines quit over $500 million trapped funds. CBN reps interventions have not helped crisis. Emirates departure will hurt local travelers more, travel agencies say. We're not threatened by withdrawals. Sirika, this is the Minister of Aviation. Maybe it will help us stay in the country instead of jackbuying. And then let's develop Nigeria together. CUPP, Tinubu hails Obasanjo as parties announce ceasefire in Ethiopian civil war. Stop backing infrastructure loans with natural resources additional, warns African governments. Kanu takes battle for freedom to Supreme Court. Tinubu promises to give Kogi people a sense of belonging. And months after Kuje jail attack, Buhari's comprehensive report yet to surface. Read the big story on pages 4 and 5. That's what The Guardian says. Kudos to the paper for towing that line. And finally, Fast Shoranti makes U-turn, says Adebanjo remains a Afenifere leader. Interesting. Mercy, over to you.
Oh, well, let's quickly take a look at The Punch. The Punch says federal government plans supplementary budget over rising inflation and depreciation. Dollar closes at 895 naira on Thursday, and reps stick to 437.53 exchange rate. That's so. How do you explain the fact that we have multiple exchange rates? Government eyes more taxes, fewer incentives for Nigerians in 2023. Federal government mulls Chinese, Portuguese loans for railway projects. This is the riders underneath the bold caption. Again, you find more airlines may suspend Nigeria operations. That's according to the saga that's ongoing with the Emirate. Wike revokes Atiku campaign chairman's plot. Tinubu amends timetable just to host first rally. Quite interesting. And this picture, a pictorial representation, it talks about a Nigerian-born woman, Azubi K, who becomes U.S. Army General. United Kingdom remands 28-year-old Nigerian for stabbing mother to death. Very saddening. ASU summons neck meeting over half salary. So some people say at all. But that's it this morning on The Punch newspaper.
All right, the final paper here, The Nation, Atiku firm in row over $5.9 million visa bill payment. So the nation is back to, throwing light and leading the charge in exposing what's going on in the PDP. The rival to that, company writes PDP candidate, no agreement signed, says ex-VP's lawyer. Tinubu donates 100 million naira to Kogi flood victims. I'm sure it's something that will interest our guest who analyzed it this morning. Federal government blames states for rise in out-of-school children. Oyo presents 310 billion naira budget. Renewed hope action plan is authentic, says APC. PCC. Ekiti to spend 113 billion naira next year is another story there. Floods, relief likely for farmers. Okay, 52 Ijebu traditional rulers endorse Abiodun for second term. Abuja hotels guests for security profiling over terror alert. Military needs no prompting to defend Nigeria, says DHQ. And some of the stories on the front page of the Nation. Let's bring in at this point Opunabo Inko Tariah. Opunabo, thank you very much for your time. We will start. I would like you to start by looking at the situation in Afenifere. That's a political one. It seems that they are coming back together with the paper, The Guardian, saying that Pa Fasoranti has made a U-turn and it has now said that Pa Debanjo remains the leader of Afenifere. What are your thoughts on where we are now and what has happened over the past few days since Bola Tinubu visited the Yoruba political leaders?
The fact is, I think slamming the interpretation were looking into that piece and the actions of Pastor Ramsey, I think that's his name. Pardon me if I pronounce it wrong. Because the man, really after the issue was contemporized in the media, reacted by saying he endorsed Atiku when Atiku went there. Sorry, he paid for Atiku when Atiku went there. He also paid for Tinubu and will also pay for Obi. So it wasn't a matter of endorsement, it was a matter of children visiting their parents for prayers, so to speak. And every parent will pray for any child that wants to contest. Even if you have about 10 children contesting, you're going to pray for the 10, even if you're going to plead with maybe 9 to submit to one of them. You still pray for them, exclusively, if an accommodation is not wished. So, but I think what really happened was that because of how would I call it, Ferrari generated by the prayers for Atiku by the elder statesmen, I think when Tinubu went, which to the Yoruba race was more or less like the disapproval of Tinubu's candidacy. So what they did was to go and plead with the elder statesman to pray for Tinubu as well. And don't forget that when I listened to Zita Debanjo also, the leader of the Afenifere, what he said was that there are schisms, there are relentless efforts by certain persons in microscopic field, as he put it, to create schism in Afenifere as a result of their political leanings, their political inclinations. And so that microscopic view will stop at nothing to rubbish the leadership of Afenifere. And so because Afenifere had endorsed, I think P2B, because Afenifere had endorsed P2B, they felt, especially in Tinubu loyalists, felt that it is a slight on Tinubu being a Yoruba man. If a Yoruba will say, like what they say, if the crocodile could eat his own head, what will it not do to that of the hen? If the Yorubas will destroy their own, which simply means he ought not to have even thought of contesting, because he's not good enough, he's not qualified to lead this country. And so the whole thing was orchestrated, and they visited the elder statesman. The elder statesman, all he did was to pray for Tinubu. He did not in any way endorse Tinubu. But, you know, this is the political office has started, and this is the political era, political season. So politicians will definitely try to exploit every situation to their advantage. And that is exactly what happened. The man prayed for Tinubu. He did not endorse Tinubu. He had at no point in time questioned the leadership of Adebanjo. And so he has come out to say, and the letter was released yesterday through his media aide, who has said, no, this man did not endorse Tinubu. All he did was to pray for Tinubu. And I think that should put an end to the whole controversy surrounding this whole thing. So it is obvious that you have just a few of their technical people that are loyal to Tinubu. You're not trying to give Nigeria the impression that the leadership of Afenifere have endorsed Tinubu, whereas that is not the case. He has not endorsed anybody. He did not endorse Atiku. He will not endorse Tinubu. He will also not endorse P2B. All he is doing is to pray for them as an elder statesman, as a father of all. All he will do is to pray for them and not to endorse them. The group that has endorsed P2B is the Afenifere, Adebanjo, and Adeforanti. Sorry, if I pronounce his name
Fasoranti.
with due respect to him too. Yeah. And the group, the man who has the powers, the virus to endorse is Adebanjo as the leader of the group. And he has endorsed who he wants to endorse. So you cannot come up now to say, it will be highly mischievous for anybody to say that Afenifere has endorsed Tinubu. No. Afenifere has endorsed P2B, but they all go to the former leader of the Afenifere for prayers. And I think that is what has happened.
All right, let's quickly look at the Daily Trust newspaper. It talks about the 3 governors, according to the EFCC, who's under the radar of the agency over the plot to launder money that has been stashed. My question is, why would, a governor stash money?
Maybe. I believe that question is rhetorical. Because being a Nigerian, I wonder why you ask me why governors will tax money. I mean,
that's why I chuckled. I couldn't hold myself.
I don't understand. Why would a governor stash money?
They plunder.
What does it mean to live in Nigeria?
No, I know, Mary, you're doing your job. That is why you're asking. But I know that you know.
No, maybe she feels you know more than her.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I should elucidate, right?
She feels you know more than her since you're in the political space.
That's what I'm trying to do now. Yes, that's what I'm trying to do now. But well, her looks, I mean, deceives the question, because I believe that Mary knows.
Mercy, you mean?
So well. Mercy, don't worry. Let me answer the question. Don't worry about whether you know or not. Let me just answer the question. Governors in Nigeria plunder, steal, defraud, do all kinds of things. Now, ask you a simple question. You have a governor, for example, the governor of Rivers State. How much is his salary?
You tell me.
What is the perquisites? Excuse me? The perquisites are attached to his office and so on. Where will he get the money to give Lagos a 350 million naira? Where will he get the money to give to buy buses for consumer state legislators, legislative aspirants? Where will he get the money to donate 25 buses to Benue State and so on? Where will he get the money to give to some of the are these money appropriated for? They are not appropriated for. So the governors steal, they pillage, they plunder, they do all kinds of things. So when you say a governor is taxing money, it is the list of the crimes a governor is doing. When you say tax money, it's like keeping money in a particular place. That is the meaning of taxing. Now, they do not just keep monies. They also squander these monies. And so when you say a governor is taxing money, it shouldn't be news. What we want the EFCC to do is not even going to come and tell us the governors, the investigating governors that are squandering money or taxing money. Once these governors are stripped of their immunity, called May 29th, they should be arrested and prosecuted. And if you say a governor is taxing money, disclose the identity of the governor. Don't tell us governor is taxing money, and at the end of the day, when you are being paid or you are being bribed, because you arrested one or two others that refuse to bribe you or pay you, you will now say, we told you governors tax money, we arrested the governor. Whereas, as at the time the news leaked, you were referring to Governor A. But because he has bribed you, you refuse to arrest Governor A, you are now arresting B, C, D. And because the number, how would I put it, tallies, 3 governors and you've arrested 3 former governors, you now say, I will told you 3. Mention the names of those governors. so that we now know how serious and committed you are in this war against corruption.
But
Governor's tax money is no news that should not make the headline. It should not make the headline. What should make the headline should be the identity of the governors, not just governors taxing. I mean, it's a sweeping allegation. That shouldn't make a headline.
But don't you think that the constitutional immunity is actually a huge one against the fight corruption? We're looking at the fight against corruption.
I just said there, I said, look, when you say immunity, there is nobody with an immunity beyond 8 years. None. Because you just have the president, the vice president, the governor, and the deputy governor. None beyond 8 years. That's why I said, disclose the identities and come May 29th, you are arrested.
All right.
Not, for example, Mr. A, Governor A, is actually the one under investigation today. Now he comes to bribe you. And because you are said 3, then maybe tomorrow, Governor B and C and D are being arrested or being found culpable. You now go ahead to arrest Governor B, C, and D. Meanwhile, after the time the disclosure was made, you were referring to Governor A, but he has tried to refuse to arrest. That's what I'm saying. You go because the investigation is ongoing. If you say 3 governors disclose their identities,
but disclosing the identities, what difference does it make? Because you have a governor that you know.
If you listen to me, I just made the clarification now. You might have, between now and May 29, you might have 10 governors guilty of passing money. Now, for now, you have identified 3. By May 29th, you might have another 7. If by May 29th, you arrest 3, the ones who think that you are actually, those are the 3 persons you are referring to, we are asked. Governor A was actually, at the time the information leaked, Governor A was number 1. But because he has bribed you, you refused to arrest Governor A. Nigerians will not know that because he bribed you, refused to announce him, you refused to prosecute him. When you say 3, they say, oh, after all, they say 3, they've arrested 3. You are these other 3. We are probably the ones you investigated in January. So if you tell us the names now, and there are additions, we know. And we also talk of naming and shaming. And even those around the governor, with that particular governor, will be careful. So name them. You've already said 3. What stops you from going ahead to say governor of social state, governor of social state, and governor of social state?
Opunabo Inko Tariah, maybe it could be a strategy to get all the governors panicking so that they can start moving, and then the EFCC will monitor to see who is going to move.
Kofi, I can assure you that this is an invitation to treat.
Okay, all right.
These governors they are talking about are already aware.
Okay.
I bet you. They are already aware.
There is a yeah.
No, 1 minute.
Okay.
For the governors to 1 minute now, for the governors to approach them and bribe them.
So
that is what they want.
So I would never understand.
1 minute, please, so I don't lose my thought. If you go ahead and arrest and mention this governor, tomorrow there is no way you can extricate them. Because already you have indicted them, waiting for court pronouncement on them. So you cannot extricate them. Announce these governors. If tomorrow there are new findings, you also announce those new governors that you are. So this is what we want. Not to come and tell, because how will you believe I tell you 3 persons in what do they call PlusTV are found guilty. Now probably I have Kofi, Mercy, and Mary. Hypothetically, please. Kofi, Mercy, and Mary in mind. Then tomorrow Kofi comes to bribe me. And because I have told you what 3, I now release Kofi. I now say, okay, I now tell to prosecute. I now say, okay, Mercy, Mary, and one other person. Maybe one other person that I found, they do find it. I now arrest that person. What happens to Kofi? That's the problem. Name them, disclose their identities. Then we know that this goes, and you know the advantage of that? A lot of persons around there will start staying away.
All right,
that's the truth.
We have to move on.
Disclose their identities. Then we now know that, yes, these 3 persons are going to face prosecution. If there are new findings, so be it.
Okay, we have to move on because of time. We have just 5 minutes. The Guardian, and I'm going back to the paper, has done a special report, and they've reminded us that the president had promised to release a comprehensive report on the Kuje prison attack, and what the paper is saying that this has been some months after that prison attack. There is no report that has surfaced yet. We're still waiting for that report. And this is what the paper says very quickly. 3 months after President Buhari ordered the Nigeria Correctional Service to submit to his office a comprehensive report, in inverted commas, of the attack on Kuje Medium Security Custodial Center by suspected members of terror group ISWAP. The report has still not been made public after the submission. So it's been submitted, but it's not been made public after the submission. So what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that, when it's presented, ought to be made public?
Of course, it's ought to be made public. I mean, it's akin to the panel set up to investigate. Was it Magu? Yeah, Magu. That is the same thing. You see, the federal government will not make it public because it will be inadvertently indicted itself. You remember when the president visited and blamed the security authorities for being responsible for, in other words, being negligent? They came up immediately, including the deputy speaker of the House of Reps. I think, was it the one or the speaker? Or the manager of the House of Reps? They had 42 or 43 security reports that were transmitted to the president. Of course, the first person that even ought to have the security report is even Mr. President. But even the National Assembly transmitted to Mr. President, and nothing was done. You see, most of these persons are released for political reasons and for filial reasons. Political reasons, they will come out to probably execute some political plans, and for filial reasons, because they are probably related to certain persons at the top. And that is why the federal government will not release the white paper. Just like the Magu case. Instead, what happened? Magu was promoted to, is it AIG or something like that? So the federal government is complicit in most of these crimes. Buhari went there to do a face-saving measure and was disgraced when the DSS came up with these disclosures. And the House of Assembly accentuated it. So he was disgraced. They will never come up. What they are doing is what I refer to as the Fabian policy. What they do is let it look as if we are working, so that with time it will fizzle out. They are just trying to ensure that those that are calling for the investigation and disclosure will get tired with time. If the reports are ready, we should not even be told that the reports are ready. Or we should see the findings of the reports in public domain. Not to be told that the reports are ready. Why you come to tell me that the reports are ready? Just let it known. Publish it for Nigerians to see. You don't need to come and tell us reports are ready. What is holding back? You are making public the report. What is holding back? Do you need another ceremony to make the report known, public? So it's all hogwash, complete flim-flam, absolute nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, in Nigeria, the reports are ready. Then you set up another committee to look into that report. Then you set up the third committee to look into that report. You set up the fourth committee to look into that report. And at the end of the day, it dies a natural death. That is what is going on in this country.
Okay, and let's quickly talk about half salary that's been paid to lecturers just shortly after, the strike has been called off. And that hasn't, really been something fantastic for a lot of Nigerians. I'd like to share your thoughts. Some people think that this is, a way forward. Others are thinking different.
It's not a way forward. It's not a way forward. First and foremost, I want the Minister for Education to resign. If he fails to resign, he should be sacked. The man admitted he's a failure. So what is he still doing there? So he should resign. If he cannot resign, then let him be sacked by Buhari. But he cannot be sacked. He cannot be sacked. I'm not saying he will not. I say cannot be sacked. Because if he squeals, Buhari himself will also be culpable. Now the fact is, medical practitioners are paid in full. The other lecturers are given half their salary. How do you justify that? How do you reconcile that? How ludicrous is that? What did the medical practitioners do that the other lecturers did not do. Because all through the lecturers were on strike, the medical practitioners were not lecturing. They were involved in their private businesses. So are you paying them for being involved in their private businesses? I mean, it's suffers from ethics of reason and poverty of logic. If you're going to pay, you pay all in full or you pay all in half. You cannot discriminate. That is completely unacceptable. So if the medical practitioners are paid in full, then every other lecturer should be paid in full. There should be no discrimination. And you cannot justify that discrimination.
All right, Opunabo Inko Tariah, let's go over to Daily Trust one more time. The INEC chairman telling the Rex, according to the paper, resident electoral commissioners, don't go to government houses. Why is the INEC chairman, preventing the Rex from going to government houses? What happens when they go there?
Yes, because most of these Rex go to government houses in the name of popsicle and so on, and receive bribes. Most of them are compromised. They are conflicted fellows. You have not been, it's like a judge. That's why when I see governors recording, commissioning and so on, you see judges there. It's an aberration. It's an anomaly. By the time my father was a CJ. And I tell you that as a CJ, the very first in fact, 1971, as a CJ, he stopped going to club until he retired. You are not expected to be mingling with the society because you cannot allow your relationship influence your judgment. Today, they are doing commissionings and so on, and you see judges attending. It is unnerving. It's not supposed to be. Now, the iron residents are like judges because they are supposed to be umpires, unbiased umpires. What are you going to government house to do when the governor himself is also an interested party? You've already compromised, and you all know that in Nigeria, whenever you visit the governor, you will leave with a fat envelope. If not, Ghana must go back. So what are you going there to do? Okay, you are visiting the governor. Visit every other candidate. Yes, go around and visit all the other candidates. If you must visit the governor. So why are you going to visit the governor? You already compromised. And the next year, they had a closed door meeting. That's the closed door meeting. That's where the envelope is exchange hands.
It's interesting you talk about...
Your vote and the kid the Ghana must go back in the foot. Then you drive off. Then you address the press. So then you visit, as the governor of the state, is a caustic call, absolute rubbish, bunk. So it is good. Don't visit. You have no business visiting the government. You are not loyal to the government. You are loyal to the people, and you are loyal to the constitution, and you are allegiance to the people, and not to the government. The government is an interested party. You have no business visiting the government.
Interesting. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But it's also...
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But
I know what you mean.
But it's also interesting you talked about the judiciary because quickly I'll just point out that the Justice Kayode, Lord General Justice Kayode Ariola, the Nigeria's new CJN, new Chief Justice of Nigeria, was hosted by his state governor, your state governor, Seyi Makinde, and in attendance you had the likes of some of the G5 governors like Ikpeazu, Otom, and of course the G5 leader, Nyesom Wike, who were there as well as some other politicians. That example you gave of a judge, going to parties and all that, because these governors also spoke. Is this part of what you're talking about, or this is different?
Oh, yes, my brother Kofi. The truth about it, there is nothing wrong with the state governor hosting the CJN. They are trying to express their joy and to a very large extent also how proud they are that somebody from that state is today CJN. But what I cannot comprehend is the visit of this sort of government. If today a judgment is passed in favor of these 5 governors, what do you think people will say? What is the business of Nyesom Wike visiting? Someone will come up with a very ludicrous argument of because he's a lawyer. Why did he invite all the lawyers? Those of you remember Body of Pressure and so what? What are these other governments? You see, if you ask me, they went there to discuss how the judiciary can be compromised. Otherwise, you have no business visiting that place. The governor of the state, yes. The other governors, no. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? To compromise the judiciary. Don't worry. This is this. This is that. This is this. Once this is done, this is it. And maybe, it's also something something would have happened behind the closed doors. We're in Nigeria.
Okay. Opunabo Inko Tariah, let's quickly move away because we might just call this a wrap. Quite interesting on the Guardian newspaper this morning is that the African, of course, Adesina, who's the governor or the chairman, however you want to put it, has said that Nigeria should stop backing infrastructural loans with natural resources, warning African government. And if you also look at the Punch newspaper this morning, the federal government has plans, to maybe consider getting loan from Chinese, Portuguese, and what have you, the Turkish government to fund a real project. So I'd like you to share your thoughts on the thoughts of Adesina. He's saying, hey, we need to stop backing loans. Taking loans when we have natural resources.
Well, probably what he's talking about is harnessing our natural resources, which most governments have failed to do. Today look at the debt profile of Nigeria. If we had a government with its thinking cap on, I don't think the debt profile would have risen to what it is today. So what he's trying to say is simple. Look, my dear, if we harness our resources, we are blessed. It's a country blessed with human and natural resources. We have them in abundance. If we harness these things, we are going to reduce the debt profile. Principally, that is what he's talking about. And he's talking about the failure of government to so do. Just like we have the oil today. Now, because we have the oil, sadly oil has become the mainstay. But preceding the emergence of oil, we had agriculture, we had cocoa and so on. And Nigeria developed to a point that even international nations admired us. The issue of OAU, or Bartels University, former University of Ife, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and Nsukka, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and so on, were all created by money from agriculture. We didn't have oil at that time. But with the oil boom, that sector has been ignored. And that is the myopic thinking of our leadership. Not just the present leadership. The leadership, right from, in fact, it started with Gowon, who said, the problem with Nigeria is we don't know what to do with money. And at that time, he was barely an illiterate. I don't think he would have said that now. He was barely an illiterate and a very small boy at that time. I don't think Gowon will make that. I believe he regrets it till tomorrow for making such a statement. Because there is no money that can be too much for a country. Because you have a lot, and also a developing country like that, you have a lot to do with it. So you cannot say the problem is how to spend the money. And that is what he's talking about. That look inwards to reduce our foreign debt. And to a very large extent, let us have enough money to build our nation. That is the synopsis of what he's talking about.
All right, let's go over to the Punch newspaper. It's covering some of the activities of your state governor, Nyesom Wike. Indeed, the PDP and Atiku's campaign, with this one saying Wike revokes Atiku campaign chairman's plot. What are your thoughts on this one from the Punch newspaper? There's a lot going on in River State.
The revocation of the C of O must be done within the remit of the law. I don't know the circumstances surrounding the government approving that, so I will not want to speak on it. But the truth about it is that the law is clear. It has to be for public use. Probably the government knows why it's revoking it, but the government is bound by law. And so if the revocation is in sync with the law, so be it. excuse me, if it is meant for public use, so be it. If it was illegally gotten, well, so be it. Then it's going to revoke it. So I don't want to speak on that. But we all know that it is a clear case of witch hunting. Because why did you not revoke all this wine? You said, oh, Omea has been derecognized. First and foremost, Omea will not refund the kobo. The governor and the House of Assembly are equally culpable. Because you went in violation of the Supreme Court judgment that said Omea was never a governor. And Amesri has inherited the assets and liabilities of that government. You went ahead in flagrant disregard of the Supreme Court judgment to recognize Omea. You're guilty. You hung the picture himself. I was there. You hung that picture himself.
All right, then.
So he is guilty. The State Assembly is equally guilty. Omea will not make any reform. Back to Senator Lee Meba, that's the person you're talking about. Senator Lee Meba. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know how he got that CFO, how he got that building. But it has to be in tandem with the provisions of the law.
All right.
If it is not, the governor cannot, because it will be challenged in court. The governor cannot.
Opunabo Inko Tariah, we have to go now.
Okay.
I mean, it's always a delight to speak with you on these issues. We hope that we have you some of the time to share your thoughts. We do appreciate your time with us this morning.
Yes, Opunabo Inko Tariah, I'm sure that Senator Lee Meba, being an Ogoni man, may just be playing that Ogoni song that is trending right now, Shady Waimini, after hearing that Yeso Wiki has revoked his CFO. All right, let's see how it goes. Thank you very much for your time. Good morning to you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
All right, and that's the size of our conversation this morning on Off the Press. We take a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at our second, I beg your pardon, our first conversation right here. Please stay with us.